What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celios Network. Today I will be discussing the current meta and where the meta is moving to with the new sets Shining Legends and Crimson Invasion. Think of this to be sort of a beginner's guide to Shining Legends and Crimson Invasion's impact on the meta. I'm not going to be going over every card in the set or anything close to that, but I'm going to be going over some important cards that I think you need to know about and how they will impact current archetypes, make new archetypes, and change some deck list inclusions and stuff like that. So let's get right on into it with my first item. Let's look at the 17-18 standard format so far. So if we look at Hartford and Vancouver, the two standard regionals that have happened so far for this season, we saw more than 10 different archetypes make day two, combining both regionals. Something I thought was interesting that I realized yesterday was that the top two from Hartford were Greninja and Volk, and the top two from Vancouver were Garb and Gardevoir. Being that these regionals were only 2 weeks apart, I think it's fairly diverse for the meta that the top two decks from Hartford and the top two decks from Vancouver make up a total of 4 different decks. And different decks won each tournament. So I think that it's proof that we had a fairly diverse meta for this first quarter, so to speak, of the season. I think it's safe to say that Gardy and Garb are both in really safe places to move forward into quarter two, staying in the tier one of the standard format. Gardevoir is just really, really strong, and it's going to take a lot to make that deck not played and to not perform well. And I don't see anything coming out of Shining Legends or Crimson Invasion that makes me want to stop playing Gardevoir. I think I said it in a previous in a previous video, and if I didn't, I've been saying it a lot with my testing group that I plan on playing Gardevoir GX until I see something that is just outright stronger than it. I'm only at 90 CP. I didn't have a great performing at Hartford. I had a lot of draws. I think I ended with 3 draws. Which is pretty tough, but I was playing a stage 2 deck and I played against other stage 2 decks, so it'll happen. Um, but all of my CP so far, my 90 points, are from Gardevoir. I think it's the best deck, and I'm personally sticking to it, and I think a lot of other people will as well, just because it's so inherently strong. And then Garb, I really, really like Garb now. I didn't like it so much before Hartford. But the week or so leading up to Hartford, I realized that it had a lot of 50-50s, and I built toward Reklev's version of the deck with the 1/1 Espeon in it, and I really liked how it flowed, but that was like 3 days before Hartford, and I didn't want to learn a new deck, so I stuck with Gardevoir GX. And a notable player from my area, Justin Bocari, who did well with Garb, mentioned to me that he picked the deck for Hartford just because it had 50-50s and matchups that, if you played correctly and you played better than your opponent, you should win them. And that was kind of what I was thinking as well. And from there, after Hartford, I started practicing more with Garb. And so I might take that to a few quarter 2 cups. I think I'm done with quarter 1 cups for now. This weekend that we're in is the last weekend for them, I think. And I think, if I'm not wrong, quarter 2 cups start like a couple weeks into November. But yeah, I think Garb and Gardevoir both stay very, very strong. I don't want to stay on that too long. I think that Golisopod Garbodor stays strong. I think Alolan Ninetales, Volcanion, and Decidueye variants also all stay strong. I'm sure other things will move into the format fairly untouched, but the decks I mentioned are the ones that I expect to see a lot of still. I'm just going to pull up Mike Foucher's Gardevoir list. This is the one that he posted in the Facebook group Hey Fonte, claiming it to be the most optimal Gardevoir list. And the rescue stretcher is turned sideways because he noted that he thinks that could be either a super rod or a stretcher. Um, I do think this is a very good list. I just never like to say that a certain list is the most optimal or the best list because I think preference goes a long way in this card game. I know some people like Max Potion instead of Acerola. Personally, I run the two Bridget, one Acerola in best of one, but in best 2 out of 3, I run one Bridget and two Acerola. I also really like Oranguru, but Octillery is obviously better for drawing. You get more draw power out of it, but Oranguru is really nice to just get the draw power out of it immediately after getting it down on the bench, and there's not two pieces that you have the potential of prizing. It's just one card. But if you were going to try out Gardevoir, go ahead and try this list. Just start out with this list and then make preference changes as you go, but I wouldn't go too far off of it because this is, I'd say keep it about 57 or 58 cards similar to this list and then change a couple preferences. Like I said, if you want Max Potion instead of Acerola, Super Rod instead of Stretcher, Oranguru instead of Octillery, I think those preference choices are okay. But for the most part, this deck, this list right here is really, really good. Next for previous to Shining Legends Crimson Invasion, this is Xander Perro's Drampa Garb with 1/1 Espeon from Vancouver. I believe he placed top 4. Interesting, he played Lily and he played no Rainbow Energy. But this is, again, a good skeleton if you were going to try this archetype, which I think is one of the best archetypes at the moment and moving into BKT through Crimson Invasion. We saw, if you looked at lists from Vancouver, a lot of Drampagard players played for Guzma. I think that's really, really good because a lot of times you'll get a Drampa down and just run through your opponent's GXs and win that way. And that hitting that Guzma to get a Lele for the last 2 prizes is really important sometimes. The only odd card here is Lily, but like I said, decks, I think Pokemon has leeway for like 2 to 3 slots in most decks for preference choices. And I guess that this player thought that if he got down a few basic Pokemon the first turn and didn't need Bridget, he would go for the first turn Lily to get the Po-Town, to get the energy attachment, to get the Float Stone, things like that. So, good skeleton list to work off of to start out if you're going to try this. Alright, the next item on my list for this meta talk is to look at new cards that we'll see play and how they will influence the format. So I'm going to go through some key cards I think you should know about, key cards you should try out in your decks, think about what decks they could go into. None of the cards in this section are going to be archetypes on their own. They'll either be added to archetypes that already existed, be added to new archetypes, or just be tech cards in several decks. So first, the card that everyone's talking about, Zoroark GX. You can go on the YouTube search bar and type Zoroark GX Pokemon, and you will find videos among videos of people playing with this card, talking about this card, putting it in decks. So I'm gonna try not to spend too much time on it. Its trade ability, discard a card, draw 2, is just so good. It has obvious synergy with cards like Aqua Patch, which gets a water energy from the discard, and then it has synergy with Darkrai GX, which comes from the discard with a dark energy and goes to your bench. And then the draw power is just so good. Pretty much anyone involved with card games will know that drawing more cards means you have more cards in your hand, which means you have an advantage excuse me, an advantage because you have more choices. It also has a solid attack. It can do a max of 120 with for a DCE, choice band 150, Kukui choice band 170. Um, its Trickster GX is choose one of your opponent's attacks, anything in play, and use it. Um, but that requires Dark Energy, and not every deck that this is in. Most decks it's in will not be playing um, Dark Energy. So I think this is a really good card to update the um, archetype of Zoroark Drampa with. You can go to my channel and watch me playing with that deck a couple times and talking about it. I'm really, really liking Zoroark GX Drampa. Um, like I said, this card didn't make an archetype on its own. It updated an old archetype. And I think it's really good in there, but it's also going to be played as draw support in Alolan Ninetales Zoroark. And Alolan Ninetales and Zoroark is added to replace Octillery. Some people are trying it out, replacing Octillery and Gardevoir. The Zoroark GX Lycanroc GX deck from Japan is good, but their format's a little different. It's probably better and expanded, but Zoroark GX Lycanroc GX is still really fun, and I've been trying to make it work. So yeah, Zoroark GX is going to be around a lot. And the way I think it will influence the format is decks may become more consistent because of its draw power, and also fighting type Pokemon are going to get a little stronger because they will have an important target on the opponent's field more often now. Next is Cartonnage GX. I'm so excited about this card. Everything about it's really good. You play it down, and it has a play from hand ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. So already you can see that this may influence how many special energy people are playing. If you're looking at cards like the new counter energy and you're thinking about playing a deck with 12 energy, and those energy are 4 double colorless, 4 rainbow energy, and 4 counter energy, you might think, well, if my opponent's playing Enhanced Hammer or Cartonnage GX, they can remove any of my energy. I have no energy that are safe. So Cartonnage GX may influence special energy play in the format when it comes out. But regardless, people are going to be playing double colorless energy. People are going to be playing rainbow energy. So Cartonnage GX is really good to get that energy advantage on your opponent just by playing a Pokemon down. And it also has use in Blade GX. If you just have one prize card left, if you have a lull of a turn where you can't do anything, you can attach a rainbow or a steel and take a prize card. That's its attack. It doesn't even have to knock out a Pokemon. Sorry, there was a smudge on my screen. So yeah, Blade GX is really cool. Gale Blade 70. It's interesting because Alolan Ninetales and Gardevoir are weak to steel, so you can hit it for weakness. But more important against every other deck that's not weak to steel, you shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back into your deck, so you can research it out and reuse Slice Off. So I think this card's going to be seeing a lot of play. I think it's really, really cool. I think it's going to limit the potential that counter energy toolbox decks are going to have, because if this wasn't here and people weren't playing Enhanced Hammer, you could probably just go off with a Shining Mew attaching counter energies. The Mew gets knocked out, you just attack with counter energies and everything. But that still might see a toolbox like that might still be viable. I just think Cartonnage GX would be able to keep it in check if something like that popped up. So, as I mentioned, Shining Mew is next. This is, as far as I know, the the strongest form of energy acceleration that Pokemon TCG has ever seen in a non-GX attack and on a basic Pokemon. So Shining Mew, what it does for one Psychic, it cheats 2 energy of any kind onto your board. So a Legendary Guidance, search your deck for up to 2 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. So what's really important about the wording of this is it does not say up to 2 basic energy cards. It says 2 energy cards. So most Energy Excel we see says a basic energy from the discard, or search your deck for a basic energy and attach it to your Pokemon, or search for 2 energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. This gives you so much freedom because it's 2 of any energy. That means rainbow, double colorless, counter energy, strong energy, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. So these 2 energy can go to the same Pokemon, or they can be spread out. So that means you can make 2 targets. Let's say you search for 2 DCE and you attach them to 2 separate Drampa GX. That means your opponent can't possibly take care of both Drampa, so there's a threat coming next turn unless they get rid of both energy. It has free retreat. The only downside is 30 HP, but I'll take that downside because this card's just really, really good. I'm not sure what the price range is going to be like for these cards once it starts seeing play. They're $20 right now, so I played it safe and ordered 3. I'd get your hand on 1 or 2 at least, just because I would be extremely surprised if in this card's lifetime it wasn't seen in a couple tier 1 decks. Next is a card I've mentioned a bunch, Counter Energy. For some reason I couldn't find an English scan. The only English scan I found was the secret rare version, and it was kind of blurry, so this is the Japanese version, but it's a picture and I'll tell you what it does. The top text says that it counts as 1 colorless energy, and the bottom text says if the Pokemon this a card is attached to is not GX or EX. Sorry, I'm just making sure I have the translation correct. I want to read it to you straight from PokeBeach. Here we go. This card provides 1 colorless energy. When this card is attached to one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX, and you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, this card provides 2 energy of every type. So what we have here is if you're behind on prizes, your opponent is winning, and this card is attached to a regular Pokemon, non-GX or EX, you have a double rainbow energy. Now, some of you may have not been around for double rainbow energy. Double rainbow energy was a monster of a card because it was a double colorless, but instead it was double rainbow. So if you could imagine the power of that on, let's say, the new Regirock, the new Registeel. There's not the new the Raikou that does I believe it's from Breakthrough. The Raikou that takes less damage if it has a lightning energy attached and does 20 more for each lightning energy. So there's a few cards that off the bat you can think of that this card will go with. I think that the cards it will be best with have not been yet released. I think we'll see more cards in future sets that will go really, really well with this, which happens a lot in this game, where we'll see a card released and then a card from a next set or 2 sets over will be released that synergizes with it really, really well. Excuse me. So yeah, I think Counter Energy is going to be played. I'm not sure if it's going to be played right off the bat. And because of the stipulations it comes with, the non-GX, non-EX, and you have to be behind, I think it's going to take some time to figure out the decks and the Pokemon that can benefit from it the most. Next, we have Nihilego. I'm not going to pronounce it right, sorry. Nihilego GX. The jellyfish Pokemon. No, it's an Ultra Beast from, I don't really play the game much anymore, but it's an Ultra Beast GX, 180 HP, Psychic. I believe this is the first Ultra Beast I'm talking. No, I already talked about Cartonnage. That's right. So what this Pokemon, what I like it for is it has a play from your hand ability like Cartonnage. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may leave both active Pokemon confused and poisoned. So you're confusing your Pokemon and your opponent's Pokemon and poisoning them, But if you're going to play this down, I would imagine you're going to either evolve your active to take that effect off, or you'll Guzma it, or you'll retreat it, or do something to remove those conditions. So you're basically affecting your opponent's Pokemon of two special conditions. I could see this being like a fringe deck with Muck, a lone Muck GX possibly. More likely it will do some work with Darkrai GX's GX attack to get an instant knockout. I could see it being just a good, um, a good addition of damage. It'll add 10 with the poison. It'll confuse your opponent. We saw how strong Confusion was with Espeon GX in the last season. We do have Guzman now, so special conditions are a little less relevant. But I do think this card will see play, and I think it's something you should know what it does, so you're not surprised when your opponent slaps it down. Something to mention is if you get its energy excelled with something like maybe a Shining Mew, lock up 120, the defending Pokemon can't retreat during your next turn. So if you had this out and then you play another Nihilego GX to confuse and poison your opponent, excuse me, you could make it so they can't retreat and they would have to use something like a Guzma or an Acerola or a Switch. And then Symbiont GX adds the top two cards of your opponent's deck to their prize cards. I think that's, in theory, that's really, really strong, but not doing any damage, and you'll have to take a couple turns to power this up. Your opponent's probably just going to take those two prizes by killing this Nihilego GX. So, which is my problem with that GX attack. So I do think this will see play. I don't think it's going to influence the format as much as the other cards I mentioned, but it was worth mentioning. And I think you should know what its ability does. Next is Latios from Shining Legends. We're looking at its breakthrough attack, 30 to the active and 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is a good partner or replacement for Tapu Koko promo, depending on what Pokemon you're targeting with it. So if you were playing the Meowstic card that moves all the damage around and tries to knock out Pokemon with damage from other Pokemon, you would want Tapu Koko because it puts more damage on the board. But this relocates some of that damage, doing 30 to the active and 30 to a bench. So let's say you're playing against Gardevoir and you play Potown, you do 30 to the active Ralts, 30 to the benched Ralts. They evolve both with Potown out, so they go Rare Candy Gardevoir and then Kirlia. Next turn you can use Espeon EX's Miraculous Shine to devolve, and you knock out those Ralts. If you attacked with Koko, those Ralts would still have 10 HP left. So that 10 HP, that 10 damage that Breakthrough adds is definitely going to be relevant. This isn't really going to affect how people play, I don't think, but it's a card that you should be aware of. I think it adds more relevance to the Potown 30 damage on the second turn in Devolve decks, because with Koko, it was adding the 20 from Flying Flip, the 30 from Potown, and you couldn't really do much with that. You would have to wait until they evolved yet again to make it 80 damage. But with Breakthrough and Potown is just really, really strong against any evolution deck when you're playing Espeon or Shining Jirachi to devolve them. Last on my list of cards that I think we'll see play and that may influence the format is Marshadow. Now this is kind of the lowest on my list. I think this one might take the longest to see a lot of play and influence the format greatly, because I don't think people realize how good it is yet. We had a card like this in Platinum, which was probably like 6 years ago. I'm not sure how long ago Platinum was. Forgive me for that. But it was Giratina, and it had the Let Loose ability, and it was in one of my favorite decks of all time, which was Sable Lock, where you would just disrupt your opponent to the point where they couldn't play the game. But Let Loose in this format, I think will have a different, you'll have a different reason for using it. I don't think it will only be for disrupting. I think it's really, really good in a format without Shaman and a lot of draw trainers or draw items, where let's say you use your supporter for the turn Sycamore, and you are still needing a card that's in your 10 card deck, but you didn't get it, and you can't Ultra Ball for a Shaman. This card that you're looking for, maybe it's a choice band, and it will win you the game this turn if you hit it. So you can Ultra Ball for Marsh Shadow, use Let Loose, shuffle, and draw 4 more cards, and that's your second. That's like your last chance at hitting this card, which I think is going to be one of Marsh Shadow's main uses is when you either don't want to use the supporter in your hand and you want to try to dig for a different one like Guzma, or you've already used your supporter and you missed an item or an energy that you really needed to win, so you use Marsh Shadow as your last chance. So I think this little guy will be pretty good at some point in the format. I'm not promising it'll be used as soon as it's released, but I definitely think. Well, I'm sorry, this one was in Shining Legends, so it is released and it is legal for play. But I think you should grab a couple, try it out, and be aware of what it does. Okay, we are moving on to my final item of this meta talk, which is the new archetypes that we will see from the cards released in Shining Legends and Crimson Invasion. Both of the archetypes. Oh no, there's one from each. So I think there's only 2 brand new archetypes that are coming out of these cards. I think the rest are additions to archetypes that were already there. I do want to add in a like a second and a half archetype. Over at cuttertap.com, they posted, I believe Finnegan Lynch posted a Nihilego Darkrai Zoroark deck. If you have a subscription, go over there and check out the list. If you don't, there's a free preview where he explains the deck a bit. Nihilego and Darkrai have some synergy like I talked about, and that might be a new archetype, but it's not one that I'm completely sure of. It's a rogue deck for now. But like I said, go over there and check that out. So let me get into the 2 archetypes that I know are going to exist. Number 1 being Buzzwole GX. So this one has a lot of potential partners. It's fighting type, which automatically means strong energy is a thing for it, which amplifies its damage. So Jet Punch can do 50 to the active and 30 to the bench. It can have Regirock EX, giving it more damage output, doing Jet Punch 60 to the active and 30 to the bench. Its attack Jet Punch is a reprint of Landorus EX's attack, which at the moment I can't remember the name of, but it also did 30-30 for fighting, and that was really, really good at its time. It was played as like a big basic sort of deck where you use Landorus to spread damage around, then Mewtwo EX to come in and take knockouts with X-Ball, and you used Garbotoxin to lock abilities since Landorus and Mewtwo used no abilities. I think something like that could still be really good. So Buzzwole GX could deal the damage. Lele could clean up with Energy Drive, or since it's already there for its supporter use, or you could put in another Pokemon to attack of your choice. And then I think Garbotoxin will be really good with this, and I think Trashulence Garbodor could be your backup attacker. So Buzzwole Garbodor, I believe, has already seen some hype. I think a couple YouTubers have posted about it. So if you search Buzzwole Garbodor list, you will find something. When Crimson Invasion is out and I can start playing decks on PTCGO with the cards from the set, I will definitely make Buzzwole Garbodor one of my first decks I play because I'm really excited for it. Excuse me. So that is Buzzwole. I think will create a new archetype. It will have several different backup attackers and backup support that people try. I think Buzzwole Garbodor is going to be one of the top ones, though. We also might see something that I saw Andrew Mahone from Darium's Competitive Pokemon talk about, which was Buzzwole Decidueye. I believe it was. I believe it was Andrew Mahone that talked about that. It might just be because he's always talking about Decidueye. Either way, Buzzwole Decidueye is an interesting idea um, because you spread damage. Um, if you're playing a Buzzwole GX deck, you could always just put in Espeon EX to devolve because of this damage spread. I really like how damage spread is playing a major factor in the meta right now because I've always been a fan of it since I was in seniors division like 10 years ago, maybe. Um, Back when we had things like the Bronzong that attacked for free and put a damage on everything that was damaged. There was a Spiritomb with a play from hand that put a damage on everything that was damaged. But back then that was really, really fringe because there were big HP Pokemon that you just could never knock out. But these days we have Espeon EX and now Shining Jirachi, which really makes damage spread a viable strategy. So yeah, I really think Buzzwole GX is amazing because of its 190 HP, its fighting type, and its Jet Punch attack. The other two attacks are there, but they are not very good. Knuckle Impact for 3 fighting energy does 160, and then you can attack. If you get the energy there, go ahead and use that. You're going to get some one-shots with a Choice Band or a Fighting Fury Belt, which I think Buzzwole GX decks will play. And then Absorption GX does 40 damage for each of your remaining prize cards. Again, you can easily get a one-shot with this, but there's better GX attacks in the game. The last card I'm going to talk about is Raichu GX. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold. There are definitely people more excited for this card than I am. I don't really like it too much, but undeniably there will be a Raichu GX archetype, so it's worth talking about. Powerful Spark does 20 plus 20 for each lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon for a DCE, or which will be 2 lightning energy because you need all the lightning energy down that you can get. People are trying this out with the Raikou from Shining Legends with Magnezone that attaches as many lightning from your hand as you want. With Electrode that kills itself and turns into a double lightning. I don't think this deck will reach any higher than tier 2 just because it has some glaring weaknesses. Its Gardevoir matchup is not very good from what I've heard and what I can theorize. People that tested the matchup a bunch said that the Gardevoir matchup isn't good. And if your Gardevoir matchup isn't good, I don't think you should be playing the deck. But it is an archetype nonetheless, and there's a couple different versions. If you go ahead and search Raichu GX on YouTube, you will find more than enough versions, more than enough lists for this deck, more than enough people talking about it that are more excited about it than me, and have more information for you. I'm just trying to provide some cards that you should know about. So I hope you enjoyed this Meta Talk video. If you did, I will do more like it. I just wanted to provide a video where you could kind of get a feel for all of the important cards that are coming out of Shining Legends and Crimson Invasion. I wanted to give you a little bit of everything there and also review where the current format is at the moment and what happened for the first quarter. So thank you for watching. Subscribe if you liked what you saw. I try to upload about 3 to 5 videos a week, so I'm going to keep the content going. You can follow me on Twitter. I'll put that in my description. Thanks for watching and have a good day.